Cowboys offense saw a significant drop-off in year 2 with Schotty as the OC. They went from ranking top 2 in points per game offensive efficiency and total QBR and third down conversion percentage in 2023 to ranking outside the top 20 in all of those areas last year. Dak Prescott talked about where the Cowboys are compared to the Eagles and the Commanders.
I feel like we compete with the Eagles and beat them for the most part when we played them. I don't want to say check the record when they're the guys holding the trophy right now, so credit to them. They've earned it and they deserved it by all means, but yeah, very close, especially when you even watch the NFC game, the NFC Championship, and those two teams that we battle against each and every year a couple of times, and as I said, feel confident about we've gotten the better part each and every time. To see it in such a dominating fashion, credit to them. It's our turn and it's on us.
By the way, to be fair with those numbers, I mean, Dak missed the final 9 games of the season last year, but RC, how did the Cowboys just start to inch closer to the Eagles? That's a big question.
Hey, you know what happened? Hey, there's some dudes that played J-Mac and Devin in high school, right? And when they got drafted and became big-time NFL players, they was like, man, I used to be locking J-Mac up. Man, I used to be burning Devin. I could be in the NFL. Guys, that's not how it works. It doesn't work that because years past you were playing at the same level of the Philadelphia Eagles or you could dominate the Washington Commanders, that all of a sudden now you're going to be on that same level. Things have changed in Dallas. You do now have a new head coach. You're replacing both coordinators, and you're trying to find a run game along with give somebody else on that offensive side of the ball to be a number 2 to CeeDee Lamb's number 1. Not to mention your quarterback is coming off of a major surgery. So there's so many question marks in Dallas, and one of them being their new head coach, Brian Schottenheimer. And so to me, my big thing is let's go get Deebo Samuel, right? Let's pair him with CeeDee Lamb. And if now we have Deebo Samuel, it's an answer in the run game with physicality. It's an answer to give you an opportunity to have a number 2 wide receiver if CeeDee Lamb is doubled. That also helps Jake Ferguson get open. And it gives you a physicality on the side of the football that you lost physicality on because you couldn't run the ball. I think Deebo Samuel should be the first call this offseason for Jerry Jones. I know all the time they're thinking to themselves, we're all in, when they aren't really all in. Jerry, pick up the phone, hit John Lynch, and ask him, hey, you up? We need to talk about Deebo.
You know what's funny, Ryan? There's this fine line that you walk in the league, especially during free agency, where you're trying to decide whether to add these big-name guys to fill these voids, and it turns out that they're just an aging player. But then there's this other side of the coin. Like last year when Derrick Henry was a guy that people wondered if he would wind up with the Cowboys, and the Cowboys didn't show interest. Sometimes it's obvious, and you make a really good point about Deebo Samuel. That feels like a really good, obvious choice. And that is where I think that the Cowboys need to be more aggressive. Yes, they need to make prudent moves for young players and build the roster that way. But if there is a guy out there like Deebo Samuel, for instance, at 29 years old, he's not too old, that can really change the dynamic of your offense, go get him. Stop overthinking it so much. It feels like Jerry Jones, who was once seemingly this gambler, has turned into one of the most conservative general managers / owners in the NFL. And I don't know what happened, but if Jerry's going to get this team back to playing like the Eagles or the Commanders, he's got to make those big moves. And quite frankly, I actually like that, Deebo, and I think that's a really good idea.
Yeah, and that obviously would be a trade. And then, of course, we have free agency. We saw Dallas do next to nothing last year in free agency. But it's got to also be an attractive destination for players. Is it?
I mean, money talks, BS walks. And I think for players, when it comes down to free agency, if you want me to come help and contribute to your team, well, then open up the checkbook and show me what you're willing to pay. You look at this Dallas Cowboys team. RC just mentioned Deebo Samuel. If I'm Deebo Samuel, I'm a wide receiver, a guy that needs the ball in my hands. I'm going somewhere that has a quarterback. The Cowboys have that. They have Dak Prescott. So you have a guy that's an attractive guy that go there and know that you can go and make plays and do your thing. On the defensive side of the ball, you have a guy like Micah Parsons. So you have somebody over there that is a star player to help take attention away from you. I think overall, we look at the Dallas Cowboys, and they're a famous team. So for a lot of guys going there, you know that you're going to get eyeballs on you, and people are going to be talking about you because we always talk about the Dallas Cowboys. But when you talk about an attractive place, I think about the Kansas City Chiefs these last few years, the New England Patriots years ago, where guys would join these teams, take less money, and know that you're chasing after a Lombardi trophy. Are the Dallas Cowboys that team? No, I'm not going to go that far to say a guy that has multiple options is going to take less to go play alongside those star players and know that he has a chance of winning a Super Bowl. That's not the case. So when you talk about attraction, I think that's the biggest thing, and the Cowboys don't have that on their side.
Boy, and when you talk about that scenario, who comes to mind? Saquon Barkley. I don't know if you guys caught what Saquon was doing earlier today. Obviously, their parade is...
I was informed that he was unavailable right before a drive. There was guys on the field that were competing. We were trying to win a game, so my focus was there.
This is my first time. I haven't been in the playoffs, man, so I just got to do what's best for me and my family, dog. If that's here or if that's wherever the case may be, man. It was great playing here, but I'm out, bro.
To say it in the locker room after the game, bro, this has been brewing. Not the right time or the right place.
Man, disappointment and drama at the end of the season in Miami as we react to some of the biggest stories in the NFL. Let's start right there with Tyreek Hill. And to say that 2024 was a down year for him, that would be an understatement. He had 840 fewer receiving yards last season, more than half as many touchdowns and explosive plays as he did in 2023. So let's go to JD. He is down there in just a moment as we take a listen to this.
Instead of saying I'm out, I could have obviously handled it better. And I wish I did. You know what I'm saying? But in the heat of the moment, I just said whatever I had to say, and I'm taking full accountability of that.
You want to be a Miami Dolphin?
I do. I don't want to go nowhere. I love it. My family loves it. We are really building something special in Miami. We made it to the playoffs the first 2 years. Obviously, this year was hard, but if guys continue to buy in, you know, into what coach is building and the culture that like he's trying to build, it's going to be a beautiful thing, man.
Man, that was like walking that back big time. Jeff, what's his future in Miami?
Yeah. Listen, I don't want to overstate this to the point where I'm suggesting that it's going to be over by any means, but the Dolphins definitely have a culture issue to address this offseason, and it starts with their star players, one of which is Tyreek Hill. If you're in a relationship and you get in a big fight and you start throwing around the word divorce, you can't just a couple days later be like, that old thing, I was just kidding around, that didn't mean anything. Because your spouse in the back of their mind is going to start wondering, well, why did you bring that up? And that's going to linger into the offseason. So that's all well and good that Tyreek Hill said that he feels responsible for what he says. It's important to be accountable, but you've got to still wonder what the Dolphins are thinking behind the scenes. No, I don't think that this is necessarily going to lead to a trade because of contractual reasons, among others. But I do think that this is the start of a culture change in Miami, and I do believe it begins with Tyreek Hill.
Ooh, $57 million dead cap hit. That is going to be hard to trade. All right, and thanks for the analogy there, Jeff. All right, meanwhile in Pittsburgh, quarterback situation up in the air as we know. They're going all the way back to square one. Neither Justin Fields nor Russell Wilson will be under contract next season. So the Steelers, they have the 21st pick in a thin draft for quarterbacks. Field Yates mock draft on ESPN.com has 3 quarterbacks going in the first round. He has Cam Ward going number 3 to the Giants, Shedeur Sanders at 6 to the Raiders, and then Jackson Dart to the Steelers. J-Mac, do you like that route for the Steelers? They didn't hit on Kenny Pickett a couple years ago.
They didn't, and you could say, well, go and get a veteran. Well, they just tried that. They brought Justin Fields over and they signed Russell Wilson as well, and that didn't work. What I do like about getting a guy like Jackson Dart, he's flying up the draft boards with his performance at the Senior Bowl and all those things. And I think this leads to, all right, they have 2 veteran quarterbacks, and they've already said they don't want to bring both back. If you're going to draft a guy like Jackson Dart in the first round, does that lead to maybe bringing Russell Wilson back, the older, the veteran quarterback, of having that presence in the locker room and in the quarterback room? Jaden Daniels had Marcus Mariota right behind him as he was having a terrific year. Then we look at the Chicago Bears for Caleb Williams. He had a guy like Tyson Bagent, a young player as well, behind him. So maybe bringing Russ back, drafting a guy like Jackson Dart may lead to a good future for the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yeah, you wonder if they could even trade down and still get Dart. All right, let's go to Green Bay, where these comments from Josh Jacobs last week might have flown under the radar a little bit. Here's the running back talking about the Packers' need for a number 1 receiver.
We got a really young group of receivers. All can be really special, but I think personally we need the guy that's proven to be a number 1 already. So somebody that's we know is going to be a little bit more consistent.
RC, does the Pack need a wide receiver 1?
You know, I don't necessarily believe that. I think when you look at guys like Romeo Dobbs, Jaden Reed, Dotavian Wicks, also Tucker Kraft at the tight end position, they have people who can produce, especially with the run game led by Josh Jacobs, because the other piece of it is who are you going to get to go be that number 1? And I do think when you look at this team, the wide receiver position isn't the position you need upgrades. There are other spots on this team where I think those rooms and those sort of individual rooms need to be upgraded if this team wants to compete with the Detroit Lions, the Philadelphia Eagles, and some of the better teams in the NFC.
Yeah, I mean, to your point, they allowed a 67% completion percentage last year. That was one of the worst in the NFL, so some needs on both sides of the ball. All right, tomorrow, but he was working the drive-through at Raising Cane's in Bucks County. Look at this. RC, he's got the headset on and everything.
I tell you what.
You can appreciate that.
I'm going to tell you what. I know Raising Cane's paid.
You know things are serious when a guy like CeeDee Lamb, who rarely gets caught up in drama, finally speaks up. But this time, he didn't hold back. A few days ago, Lamb took to social media with a simple but powerful message. Y'all not tired of this? That's it. No extra details, no explanations, just frustration in its purest form. But if you've been following the Cowboys, you already know exactly what he's talking about. Every offseason, it's the same story. Drama, controversy, distractions, everything except football. And while fans are exhausted, imagine how the players feel, especially a guy like Lamb, who just put up elite numbers despite all the chaos. He's supposed to be getting ready for an extension, securing his future with the team, but instead, he's watching the Cowboys once again make headlines for all the wrong reasons. And here's the real question. What's next? Because when one star player starts voicing frustration, it usually means others are feeling the same way. And in a team already dealing with contract situations, internal tensions, and rumors flying left and right, this might just be the beginning. But what do you think? Do you agree with CeeDee Lamb? Should the Cowboys tune out the drama and focus strictly on football? Let me know in the comments. And stick around, because if you thought Lamb's frustration was bad, wait until you hear what's going on with Micah Parsons. If CeeDee Lamb's frustration wasn't enough to set off alarm bells, the latest rumors about Micah Parsons might just do it. Over the past few weeks, whispers have surfaced that the Cowboys have internally discussed the possibility of trading Parsons. Yes, you heard that right. The same guy who's been the heart and soul of the defense since he stepped onto the field. At first, it sounded like just another wild off-season rumor, but then it started gaining traction. And here's why. Parsons has never been shy about speaking his mind, and lately some of his comments have raised eyebrows, not just among fans, but reportedly inside the organization. Combine that with the fact that the Cowboys are facing major financial decisions with multiple star players, and suddenly trading Parsons doesn't seem as impossible as it once did. Of course, moving on from a player of his caliber would send shockwaves through the locker room. He's not just another defender. He's the face of the Cowboys' defense, the guy everyone looks to when the game is on the line. If the front office is even considering this, what does that say about their long-term vision? But let's flip the question around. If the right offer came along, should the Cowboys consider it? Would you trade Micah Parsons if it meant securing multiple high draft picks or filling key roster gaps? Vote in the poll and let me know your take in the comments. And don't go anywhere, because Parsons himself has had a lot to say lately, and some of his comments might shock you. Micah Parsons is never one to stay quiet. And lately, his words have been making headlines for all the wrong reasons. It all started when Parsons made a comment that left Cowboys fans stunned. He joked, or at least it seemed like a joke, that if the Cowboys don't win a ring in the next few years, he might have to go somewhere else to get one. Now, depending on how you hear it, that could just be a player expressing his hunger for success. Or it could be something much bigger. Let's be real. When you're the face of a defense, words carry weight. And when a guy as talented as Parsons hints at the possibility of leaving, it doesn't just make fans nervous, it makes the entire franchise take notice. You don't hear legendary Cowboys from the past making comments like that. Guys like DeMarcus Ware and Sean Lee bled for this team, even through the tough years. So why does Parsons feel comfortable even joking about walking away? It's not the first time his public statements have caused a stir either. Whether it's calling out our players responding to critics online, or making bold claims about his own greatness, Parsons has a way of keeping himself in the spotlight. But is that a good thing for the Cowboys? That's the big question. Do you think Parsons was just joking around, or do you believe there's some truth behind his words? Drop a comment and let me know your take. Because up next, we're diving into how social media is making things even worse for the Cowboys. Let's be honest, playing for the Dallas Cowboys is different from playing anywhere else. Every move, every word, every tweet gets magnified 100 times over. And with social media, that effect is only getting stronger. Micah Parsons, CeeDee Lamb, and other Cowboy stars are constantly in the spotlight, not just on the field, but online too. A single tweet or Instagram post can spark debates, headlines, and even internal drama. That's exactly what's happening now. Parsons' words, Lamb's frustrations, everything is instantly dissected by fans, analysts, and of course the media. But here's the thing, this isn't just a Cowboys problem. We've seen it across the NFL. Look at teams like the New England Patriots during their dynasty years. They had stars, they had egos, but what they didn't have was constant distractions. Bill Belichick ran a tight ship, and players knew that speaking out of line could cost them their job. Meanwhile, the Cowboys, it feels like drama is part of the culture, and let's be real, Jerry Jones loves it. And attention. The headlines, the constant buzz around the team, it keeps the Cowboys relevant even when they're not winning Super Bowls. But is that actually helping the team succeed? That's the debate. Should Cowboys players stay off social media and focus only on football? Or is this just part of the modern game? Vote in the poll and let me know what you think. Because next we need to talk about Parsons as a leader. Is he really the guy to lead this defense into the future? When Micah Parsons entered the league, there was no doubt he was a generational talent, a defensive force unlike anything the Cowboys had seen in years. But being a great player and being a great leader, those are two very different things. Right now, Parsons is at a crossroads. Is he going to be the true face of the Cowboys defense? The guy who rallies the team when things get tough? Or is he more focused on being a social media superstar, making headlines with his comments rather than his performances? The best leaders in Cowboys history, guys like DeMarcus Ware or Sean Lee, weren't just talented. They were respected. They led by example. They held their teammates accountable. Parsons, he's still figuring that part out. His passion is undeniable. He plays every snap like it's his last. But the constant social media drama and controversial statements, that's where the doubt creeps in. Can he mature into the leader this team needs? Or will his off-field distractions keep holding him back? I want to hear out from you. Do you consider Parsons a true leader for the Cowboys? Or is he just a superstar player with no real leadership presence? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And now, the big question. What does all of this mean for Parsons' future in Dallas? Let's get into it. So after everything, CeeDee Lamb's frustration, the trade rumors, the social media drama, where do the Cowboys go from here? The truth is Dallas can't afford to keep getting caught up in distractions. This team needs focus. It needs leadership, and it needs to decide if Micah Parsons is going to be part of that future, or if his off-field noise is becoming too much to handle. If the Cowboys want to contend, they need to shut out the drama and get back to football. That means Lamb, Parsons, and the rest of the team locking in and letting their play do the talking. But can that actually happen in Dallas, where headlines seem to write themselves? Now, I want to hear from you. What do you think the Cowboys should do? Keep Parsons and trust that he'll mature into a leader? Or seriously consider moving on if the right deal comes along? Drop your take in the comments. And before you go, don't forget, hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, and stay tuned for all the latest Cowboys news. We've got a long off season ahead, and you won't want to miss what happens next.